Hello.
Hi, how's it going? So this episode was with Lou Horgan. It was fascinating for me because it was an area I didn't really know anything about. It's Lydia's area of expertise, and so I thought it'd be just like, over to Lydia, have the chat with Lou. But actually Lou went in all sorts of different directions, talking about...
Just like women's wisdom.
Yeah,
is what I
exactly.
think. It's just kind of all the things. I mean, I think we had kind of anticipated it being more of a...
Yogic or...
Yeah, I certainly had kind of thought we were going to talk more succinctly about menstruation practices and positive menstruation, and we did touch on those things, but it actually ended up wandering around in different ways, as they do, and we've definitely agreed that we're going to go back and do that little succinct chat for people who have been asking. Yeah, for sure. But gosh, I mean, she's great, isn't she?
Well, she's really, I mean, moved by her own practice as well, which is great. I mean, she really knows she's in the right place, doing the thing that she needs to be doing in this lifetime. That's for sure. She began to get very tearful and really, exercised when we were talking about what women who are engaging in the practice of prenatal yoga are coming to her to do, and what that progression means then when they have kids, and how much of that connection they develop with Lou, and how much it deepens their bond with their kid initially, and deepens their whole practice of being a woman. And that's it's kind of like, because it's like this coming of age is like that initial kind of like menstruation thing when women go through puberty, but really for me what it kind of crystallized with, actually this is a big part of womanhood, like and it's not something you can really ignore or take lightly, and from a male perspective it was really interesting to be able to sit in a room and have that conversation without feeling like I was being talked at, which was cool.
And I think it's part of a bigger conversation that generally we need to have with women and men, and that's kind of the point of, certainly when I'm teaching active birth workshops, and I know when Lou does too, it's about bringing men into the conversation, and not that they're just sitting there observing the conversation as kind of observers. They're very much a part of that and that empowerment role, and I think that carries on, and that's the way that we shift this paradigm that's kind of happened, where there's like male and female roles in raising children and patriarchy and all this stuff that's been going on, and that's a topic of conversation now. But by being part of that birth process and understanding what it is to step into that role of womanhood, and for the women to be empowered by that, but also by the men to see that empowerment and to see the vessel and that kind of magic of that and the transmutation. It's just so exciting. It's
basically not passive passive birth workshops. It's active birth workshops, and you can really feel that. And it's weird, isn't it? Like engaging in anything, it automatically brings a level of like kind of enlightenment to that little practice without using that. I know that word enlightenment is bandied about too much, but it even like tying your shoes, you feel how your foot feels inside the shoe. Like everything that you kind of do, there's always that ability to do in a really conscious manner, to have your breakfast, to drink your tea, to drive through traffic, to make eye contact with people you come into contact with, to not just be a passive observer in your own life. And I think really you can feel that she's doing that. Oh my God, she embodies it.
Totally. And it's so powerful as a woman to be in the presence of a woman who's really standing in their power in a way that isn't where they're like dictating to you the stuff or standing on high on a pedestal. They're just living it. They're living out their dharma, and they're doing that thing. And her work is women's work. It's real work. It's the work that needs to be done more than ever right now. And it's just so great to be around. And for me, I've been teaching slightly less long than her, and so it's nice to kind of be in the presence of someone who's further down that path, and and just to watch that teaching and watch her ability to weave the words of wisdom in a way that make absolute clarity for you. And the more people like her, please.
Absolutely. Defo. And get to listen to some of her rather controversial moment inside a class led by one of the, is it Ronald Stryker?
Yeah, let's not name names, but
his name gets mentioned, so
I'm not naming his name.
Anyway, but there's a really interesting moment where she talks about how the type of like moon yoga, which has become a huge thing, this idea of kind of like phase, it kind of shifts within yogic practice, that she kind of raised it at a big seminar with a big teacher a number of years ago, and how little was being done about that, how little knowledge there was about that, and how, you know, we don't know where that knowledge was really lost. We don't really understand, because we always see yoga tradition, you see a lot of women yoga teachers, we assume it's kind of the women's thing, but actually, strangely enough, even in yoga, there's a part there that's been sort of plucked out.
Well, a lot of the, I mean, traditionally, we all know, like, Ashtanga was developed traditionally for teenage boys to burn off that excess energy in schools, and so that's why Ashtanga has that very, very kind of yang energy about it. But actually, what's happened is that the women's practices were more private, and they were taught by women, and they were sort of ceremonial, and they're much more flowy, and they're much more kind of gentle. They're watery. They're water element, because a large amount of it comes from menstruation and from pregnancy and from birth, and then from menopause, and all those practices which are around water and ojas and juices and all that stuff. And so it's mirroring those things. But because it got passed down through a male lineage, I think largely also because women, you know, in India certainly didn't have the agency to go outside of the home, maybe, you know, and it wasn't seen to be the done thing after various different parts of, you know, India were developed and, you know, colonized.
Yeah, that's a word.
By my
colonization.
people.
Oh dear.
But, you know, that got lost. And so all these women come to the practice of yoga because they feel that deep need and they feel that connection with it. But we're teaching a male lineage of yoga, and so it's really nice to see people like Uma Dinsmore, Thule, and, you know, Lou, and all these people sort of bringing to light those women's practices and teaching yoga in a way that's for women's bodies, because our pelvises are entirely different, and so the way we need to move is different, and our energies and all the things, our cycles are different, and it's about finally bringing that to light in the yoga community and going, yes, of course we can both do both types of yoga, but as women we need to know that at certain types of our cycle it's not appropriate for us to be doing an external practice when there is already an internal practice going on, and that's kind of you know, it's revolutionary. Lots of women just haven't been introduced to that, haven't heard of that, and when you finally hear that from someone that you're able to hear it from fully and let that sit with you, you know, for me certainly it changed everything.
Yeah, cool, nice. Anyway, so enjoy this chat, and in the meantime please help us out by going and checking out our sponsors. So Nuzest, who is our favorite supplement company, who produce the most amazing vegan protein and this beautiful thing called Good Green Stuff, and their gorgeous bars, which are now in the market as well, now enabling you to get away from the rather filthy, oversaturated, manky protein bar market. So go and use our code wellness15 on newsest.co.uk. Also, we are happily supported by the people who make this contraption that we're shooting on called the Swivel, and you can go to techinvasion.co.uk and talk to Satnam and use our code, which is HOPSWIVEL 5%. Talk to Satnam, say you're on Wandering to Wellness. You don't have to remember all the codes. He'll look after you. And also, of course, Clear Light Saunas, which we're really, really lucky to be ambassadors for these days. And so Clear Light, we have a starting discount of €75, and come and chat to us if you're curious about Clear Light, or you're interested in infrared sauna therapy, and we can talk you through the options and put you in touch with the right people so that you get a really good service, because Clear Light are the biz.
There's one just there. You just can't quite see it just off camera, but
bit of a tease.
They're seriously good. They
absolutely.
are. And they're a beautiful thing as well. I mean, not just the benefits are beautiful, but they look beautiful. It's a lovely thing.
There's lots of good reasons.
There is.
So if you can, you should. Basically. Okay, cool. Enjoy the chat, and thank you for watching as ever.
Bye.
You really fell on your feet here.
We did.
Nicely
We
done.
are
Nicely done.
very blessed.
Okay.
Yeah, all that crap.
Yeah.
Wow. So Emily.
So no, Connor brought that back from Peru. Connor went off
that's
to Peru.
base.
That's a Shipibo
wow.
tapestry from the Amazon.
God, the colours are amazing.
Yeah,
Aren't they?
well, they're all the little Icaros, right? I don't know if you know anything about ayahuasca.
Tell me about an Icaro.
Icaros are the songs that are sung in ceremony in an ayahuasca.
Oh yeah.
ceremony.
Okay. Yeah. Oh,
So Connor went off to Peru. He's much younger than I am.
Okay.
And when we had babies pretty early.
Yeah.
And when Alana was small, I was like, I can give you 6 weeks. Go travel. Because he never did that thing.
Okay, damn. Yeah. Well, I sympathize
So
with that.
he was like, I want to go to Peru. I want to go to Shipibo land, and I want to do ayahuasca ceremonies. So he went in, he went deep. And he came back with this. His maestra gave him that for me.
Wow.
And he came back with one with Joshua and one for Alana. And it was a very, very interesting time, because after that, lots and lots and lots of things changed.
I'm sure.
And this happened.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, we're very fortunate, and I had a part of a family business that was sold, so I came
Okay.
into some money.
You were able to.
But far more magical stuff aligned that I don't even know how it happened.
Okay.
And then we've had to find ourselves sitting here going, how did this happen? And it's like,
Listen,
just allow it come.
in the lap of the gods, great.
Yeah, there was a big magical element for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, ayahuasca is such an interesting thing. I'm really drawn to the idea of it. And it's interesting that so many men are drawn to it.
Yeah.
And I wonder,
think
is
it's-
that what we're kind of talking about?
I
that
think
same
that's
thing, that
very,
access
very,
to...
very, I think it's very, at the end of the day, you have to, you know, wake up in the morning, have a relationship, deal with the world. You have to do it in real time. You have to climb the mountain in real time.
Yeah.
But it is very useful to see behind the veil and to say, oh, okay, it is a divine matrix.
Yeah.
It is a, it's the place that men are talked out of,
Yeah.
you know, culturally and society and whatever for such a long time. It's the real divine feminine presence. So I see men getting an awful lot of value out of it, but then you just have to be really careful that it doesn't become the only way you can access that place.
Yeah, because also you do hear it becomes a bit compulsive.
Oh, there's loads of people who are just like
go back
literally
and go back and go back.
weekend, that's my thing, that's my medicine. And you're kind of like, but you are a bit of an asshole.
Okay.
So how is it working?
Aren't you supposed to
Because
make
you're
you
not
nicer?
changing.
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, you see a lot of people through all modalities not really transforming in their lives. And, you know, that was something that Connor had to process, to work through himself in real time. You know, it was, what was that, like 4 years ago?
Okay.
And he has done his time with it now, and he's
Wow.
learned that, okay, now actually I have to, you know, eat well by myself,
Yeah.
do my meditation, you know, all the stuff that we are kind of, oh, really, do I have to do that?
Yeah, the stuff that slips first.
You can't
Yeah.
just, you can't just, I mean, it's like anything, even like to modern medicine. You can't just go and go, give me the pill, and then I go back and keep doing the stuff that I've been doing and expect there's a change.
The magic bullet, yeah, I know, and it's very attractive to think,
course.
you know, I just have to drink this brew and see the meaning of life and all of my patterning and all of my and get all of these insights. I do think there's a place for it, but then it ultimately, all roads are bringing you to the same truth. They're all bringing you to the same place, whatever road you choose to follow. And if you're only able to get to that place, you know, on the you know,
highway,
the
that's
highway,
super highway.
yeah. I think you're better served just walking it or horse and carting it.
Yeah.
But there's real value in knowing and remembering that place that you
That
can
thing is there.
access.
Yeah.
Especially
If you've never accessed it before,
Yeah.
you know, if you've never known it before, if you've never had an opportunity to be,
It's like the carrot, isn't it? Like you still have to walk the road, but the carrot's there.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
dangling
yeah,
ahead of you.
yeah,
So
sure.
Some people,
Sure.
more than others, need that thing of going, well, there is a promise
Yeah.
of a thing at the end, so that when you're doing that everyday work, which can be kind of drudgery if you're approaching it in a certain way,
yeah,
to go like, oh, well, I know why I'm doing this work. And I remember
Yeah.
that there's this
Yeah.
there at the end.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
yeah, sure,
Especially
sure.
when you're in that head down valley place.
Yeah,
You need that light to remind you.
perspective.
Absolutely. But a lot of the practices that you're kind of engaged in within yoga life, as I understand it, are aiming at or like teasing you with little elements of that really kind of fertile, kind of abundant joy, euphoria kind of thing. So you're not like, it's what I love about, like, so there's this thing about like substance versus not substance sort of thing about when we're talking about it. The idea of kind of accessing those states of consciousness or accessing kind of that greater level of understanding that just makes you feel like okay with the world, like you've got enough, like you are enough, and you don't need to kind of keep
Yeah.
chasing the whatever.
Yeah.
But then, why do you think? Like, it's. I mean, okay, without taking this to a totally weird place, religiosity sort of thing. If those things are on the earth,
Yeah.
do you have an idea of like what's your theory? I'm sure I know you've thought about this. So what's it like? Why do you think those things? Is it just because men don't have that access to these kind of altered states, which we'll talk about in a second? Or do you think there's actually a meaning within them for everybody? Like, is there universality of?
Sure. Oh, I think there's meaning in them for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, for sure. I just think that there has been a narrative that has talked us out of or suppressed what those substances awaken. And that is true of men and women. However, women can't really be talked out of those places in themselves because of our embodiment of them. Like, they're just there. Now, you can, as a woman, choose to take contraception every month and stop your cycle. You can, as a woman, choose to take epidural and not feel the power of your birth. You can, as a woman, take HRT and transition into the wisdom years in a placebo, everything's exactly as it's always been state. And that's more and more and more common, and all of those medications are encouraged to keep us all operating on a linear surface,
stability,
material, solar pattern, which is, get up, do, and start and go to bed. And the whole underbelly of the kind of the night time and the dream state and the moon time, scary at night time, let's not go there. So then when we start excavating into all of that, as women, we can just, I'm going to just consciously cycle, and I'm going to prepare for a transformational birth process. Whatever it may be, those tools are there. They're always calling you back in.
And when people come off HRT or come off the pill, they get such a strong shout. A lot of women I talk to now, that from what I've heard and what we talked in the shop, it's, they sometimes it's 6 or 9 months of amenorrhea, like no cycles, and then suddenly like whomping cycles, like just crazy change, like the body is screaming at them to get involved again.
You can't
but
get
then
rid of it.
It is. It's just there. But I think when you come to all of the brilliant plants that alter state, I think, use them, but not as a means to an end, not as a,
It's not like you've done the work when you've
finished.
Finished.
It's showing you something. It's just showing you something. And I am so no expert on any of this, but I know certainly, there is nothing giddier, more fun and more delightful and more childlike, innocent, abundant and playful than Irish magic mushrooms. And frolicking around the mountains of Wicklow, having had a few magic mushrooms. That's just, however, if I had never accessed that place in myself, if I didn't know what that place was in myself, and I took something that brought me to that place, I could find it very scary. Yeah. So I think that's when it can go wrong for people. But hey, I am not here on any level to talk about that from a place. No. Because I don't really know. I'm just, I've always been a kind of a curious spirit. And back in the day, I would have been a bit of a stoner when I was a teenager, early teens. Yeah. Because I think, as somebody explained it to me, it's a low-grade spiritual search.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
That's it's like you are accessing something. It's not low-grade, but it is if you're just being a stoner, rolling joints in the morning, ordering pizza, and watching Oprah, which I just thought was phenomenal when I moved to North America. I was like, you can pick up a phone and someone brings you a pizza. And there's daytime talk shows on all the time and people are talking about their problems. This is amazing.
Done.
So it was really, really, really kind of showing me something that I was really into. But obviously then there's a dysfunction in it as well, know. So
or it breeds a dysfunction if it's over.
It breeds a dysfunction. And in fairness, I'm lucky because I never really went into anything too fully. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. And then you kind of go, okay, now you're just getting fat because you just really eat pizza all the time.
And about everybody's problems.
TV is getting a little bit dark. Yeah. So maybe I should just,
and did you
go back into the world.
Fair dues. Did you have that barometer yourself? Did you have a strong internal kind of compass around that? Yeah. Okay.
However, I think people who are really curious get lots of comfort sensitive, curious folk as we clearly are, we, it's kind of, you're constantly trying to navigate a world that's desensitized. So when I saw people talking about their feelings, it was like, oh, people are talking about their feelings. Because we didn't have daytime TV talk shows in Ireland at the time. This was like 1991.
Okay, yeah.
So this was Oprah Winfrey. This was the early days. This was Sally Jessy Raphael. This was women talking about feelings and bringing on doctors like Christiane Northrup. The first time I ever laid on this woman who's written a book called Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, Dr. Christiane Northrup. She's just this brilliant OBGYN from the States. The first time I saw her was on the Oprah Winfrey show, and I'm watching it and I'm like, and she's talking about premenstrual tension. She said, it's not premenstrual tension, it's premenstrual truth. Yeah. She said, what keeps coming up? Who do you keep getting annoyed with every month? And I sat there going, are you kidding me? I'm actually, and at the time when I heard that, I was like, oh God, maybe I really don't like this guy.
Oh wow.
And I come out of my cycle time and I'm like, oh no, he's fine and he's good looking and it's lovely and we're all really happy and it's great. And then every month I'd be like, I fucking hate that bastard. Yeah. So it's like, it's a bit extreme, but there was something there, and that was the first time that I heard that. So there's value in everything we've experienced, even the pizza eating, spliff rolling, daytime TV watching. Something was poking me, getting me to consider stuff, and I really was. And I remember at night time, this is terrible, oh my God, Anthony Robbins used to have infomercials. So Anthony Robbins then would have like a 3-hour infomercial on in the evening, and I'd never seen an infomercial. I was like, yeah, what was his thing? Power or something.
What was his thing?
Proper, like, again, so un-Irish.
Yeah, actually tough to take from an Irish perspective.
I was just like, this is outrageous. Yeah. But I kept watching because, and there's more. You can personal power, own your personal power. And these infomercials would go on, and I'd watch them and I'd just be so intrigued. So the older I get, the more I realize that nothing really, if you're going to keep growing in your life, if you're going to get stuck there, that's not great. If you're going to keep growing, transcend it, but include it. Transcend it and include it.
Yeah, don't ignore it as part of yourself.
Exactly, not go, because I think certainly when I came into yoga, I aligned with this persona of that person on the couch watching infomercials who liked to smoke joints was wrong and bad. And that just becomes passive-aggressive self-righteousness, which there's so much of in the yoga community. In every community, anything related to health, anything. It's just like, oh my God, you're kidding me.
Stop beating me over the head with it.
Yeah. So it's like, no, there was real value there. Whatever about living independently at a young age and in a foreign country and working and all that kind of stuff, that was all great too. Yeah. But there was the stuff that I saw as the kind of the not so great side of it. Actually, there's a lot of value in it too,
Yeah, it's really important not to discount where we're at when we're kids. I think what's funny is we go through like this thing when we have like, kids have that great intuition, before things get kind of hammered out of them or hammered into them or whatever.
Yeah.
But then we have this kind of moment when we're teenagers where we're just screaming at kind of everything.
Yeah.
And I screamed quite loudly as a teenager as well. I didn't have I didn't know where the boundaries ended, and actually I got very scared when I pushed them beyond where I was even willing to take them. I think you had a similar moment we've talked about in previous podcasts, but in a much more profound way. But it was kind of funny. I mean, it's taken I feel like only maybe the last couple of years for me to kind of start to think about how I was then is also who I am now.
Yes.
And not to kind of discount, that was me when I was blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because I have this thing about not being able to necessarily like, when I made that decision, how was I feeling? Like, God, was that even me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know, it's difficult to kind of integrate all of your 36 years. It's like, there's that great thing with, what's his name? Pablo Picasso, where it's like, so anyway, he has this thing
that
where...
guy who did what was it, painting?
He did a thing, there were eyes all over the place. But he wrote, he scribbled something on the back of a postcard for somebody when they were asking him, like, for a painting, and handed it to them, and they said how much that was. You know, he said it's worth, I don't know, whatever, 20,000 or 2 million or whatever, and they're like, what? But it just took you 2 seconds. He's like, it took me the whole of my life.
Yeah.
And it kind of does. Like, everything you're doing now is informed by that thing.
Yeah.
Which I love, and you seem to connect to that, which is great.
Yeah, well, it's that kind of funneling, isn't it? And then you become, and this again, you know, is part of the natural female biology and energy system, is the ability to shed, an innate ability to shed. So we live in a culture that's so obsessed with accumulation, and just accumulate and accumulate and accumulate and accumulate, and really doesn't value, you know, shedding, crying, bleeding, you know, really kind of blood, sweat and tears.
Yeah.
That place of just shedding and letting go.
Yeah.
And being reborn to an extent, little micro rebirths that kind of happen through a menstrual cycle, shedding and reborn, you know, there's that birth death cycle inbuilt. So the more we kind of can let go, the more we can grow. The more, I heard it said recently, lovely Claire Mulvaney, the more depth, the more scope. You know, the more you can shed, the more you can accumulate. Yeah. And then the more you can shed, and the more you can accumulate. And then it becomes this kind of funneling of everything into greater wholeness and clarity and peace, ultimately. But if you're just accumulating, there isn't a lot of funneling. There isn't a lot of refinement of what's true.
Yeah, what's needed.
So it's just like, oh, Jesus Christ, life's really heavy, and I'm just weighed down, and I'm still carrying around all my shit. I mean, one yoga teacher said to me recently, the biggest epidemic on this planet is constipation. Now, you probably deal with that in the shop all the time.
Big time, I was thinking about that.
Literally holding everything.
It's massive.
So there's another shedding. Like, what is more satisfying than a big healthy poo?
Yeah.
A big morning poo. It's just like, you feel elated.
Yeah.
And it's the same when you really go with the bleed. Yeah. And I cannot language how, because I'm so in it, because I was just teaching it yesterday, how phenomenal it is to stand in your birth. And, you know, it's death and life on a razor's edge.
You never feel it more than in that moment.
And everything else are just little micro shites or micro bleeds or micro tears or micro joys, in a way to prepare for that truth. It's so it is all there is. It's you really do believe and feel. I remember feeling after Joshua was born, how are people still walking around in the streets going to work? Yeah. It's that thing of when people die, have the clocks not stopped.
Okay, wow. But the same feeling, but with
same
the birth.
thing. I couldn't believe it. And Connor went out like 2 nights later. His friends of his were in the pub, and he was like, I'm going to go and meet them and tell them about the birth and and he was home half an hour later. He's like, they just don't understand. I don't understand how they're just having pints. It's just, you know, it was like, so it's that place. And then if you can really own that and align with that, there's just such growth in it. Naturally available to you, because you're so in presence and in the flow of life, or the natural current.
And so were you kind of expecting, I mean, you couldn't be expecting the experience you had, but
I was preparing for it.
You were preparing for it.
I was big time preparing for it. I've been practicing yoga for a long time. Well, not that long, but I've been teaching for a couple of years. So I was practicing yoga probably only for about 2 or 3 years before I went and did a teacher training. And then I was teaching for a couple of years, and then I signed up for a prenatal yoga teacher training because I thought it would be a nice add-on, but I really didn't take it very seriously, because pregnancy yoga was kind of like that.
It's not a Vipassana in that sort of thing. Yeah, okay.
Give me some serious, hard, flowy firmy, tony.
Yeah, because you're quite pitta, right, as a person, like quite
Totally
like pretty pitta. Yeah.
I mean, I got into yoga for Madonna arms.
Okay, right.
100%. I was like, I want those arms. But I loved, there was something that was, I knew there was obviously more to it. So yeah, no, I'm totally pitta. And I went through my yoga teacher, I signed up for my yoga teacher training. Met this guy called Connor in Whelan's on a Friday night, and 4 months pregnant. 4 months later, I was pregnant.
Wow.
So that's just so not how I saw it all happening, but I was very clear that I was going to have the baby. I was just like, I'm having this baby. It was just very clear to me that that was happening. I didn't even really know if Connor was going to be involved or not, but I was like, no, this is happening. And so I went over to London when I was 9 weeks pregnant to do the first module of my teacher training. So that, basically that training went on through my whole pregnancy. Pretty much. I was going over for weekend trainings right the way through till about 32 weeks. Not every weekend, obviously, but I was going over to the UK every month or so to train again, more prenatal yoga training, and I'm embodying more and more and more pregnancy at the time.
And are you the only person who's pregnant in your training group, or probably, right? I mean, it's not that common.
It was such a cliche.
Right?
It happens every time.
The only two pregnant people in the room were the two Irish girls
Oh,
who
yeah.
got knocked up.
Oh, really? Oh, God.
We're in the
perpetuate that one.
room with all of these beautiful women from Notting Hill who are so refined, and I just remember every time I went over, I felt like such a scumbag. You know, I just like that old Irish peasant thing. So anyway, the woman who was on the training with me, I was just like, oh my God, and she was like, oh yeah, so you know, you're married. I was like, no, and she's like, no, me either. So are you with the dad? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, no, I'm not with the dad. And I was like, okay. So that was great.
Okay.
So she was the only other pregnant person there. I can't believe I'd even forgotten for a minute. So then I also trained in active birth when I was pregnant.
Okay.
And that was phenomenal. So then I was, you know, I hired or booked the community midwives in Holles Street, and they kept asking me throughout visits, so is the baby in hospital or home? And about 28, 29 weeks, 30 weeks kind of mark, I was like, home.
Okay.
I'm going to see if this works.
Yeah. Chance to put your money where your mouth is, sort of thing.
Exactly.
In a very real way.
Yeah. And obviously, you see, when you dive into that whole world, you realize how inconducive hospitals are to women birthing. And you know, I was only talking to the couples yesterday, and the way I direct the workshops, you know, the women are coming to the class, the women are reading the books, the women are watching their YouTube videos, they're hypnobirthing, everything's there.
Fairly
So
connected
the
to it.
partners are coming in to be brought up to speed and to understand what their role is.
Okay.
And what I talk about a lot to bring them into the frame as quickly as possible is a state of arousal.
Okay.
So we need to arouse this woman. How are you doing that? Are you bringing her into a bright, public, noisy, smelly environment where you could possibly, you can have sex with her. Of course you can have sex with her. Of course that's possible. But do you want her to open? Do you want her to relax? Do you want her to become so ripe and juicy with the experience of labour that she can like literally let go into a huge, big, massive, mind-blowing orgasm? Now that's not how certainly I experienced the birth.
Okay.
But it's the same energy.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and some women do experience orgasmic births, but they don't experience them in hospitals.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Don't experience with strangers. So every time I'm like, would you make love in that environment? So, you know, now you're transitioning it to the hospital in the car. So are you able to, is she comfortable having sex in the back of the car right now?
Yeah.
You know, or not?
Does this seem realistic?
And so many women are used to having bad sex that they are okay with having a bad birth.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting. So it's a strong
It's
correlation.
the same stuff. It's the
like,
same
you know,
That's really
stuff.
interesting.
It's also a lot about like being strong enough to vocalize your needs.
Yeah,
right?
and that voice is, it's dangerous. I think the biggest insight is how frightened we are of that place.
Totally.
Because that's the stuff that got you burnt at the stake. That's the stuff that got you locked up in a laundry. That's the stuff that got you institutionalized, brutalized. it's your sexual center as a woman, and that is a place that has for such a long time been brutalized, dominated, and
It's kind of
disrespected.
yeah.
To the point that we don't even know it's there. You know, or we do, but we don't trust it, or we do and we don't want to own it because it's shameful, or we do. So when it comes to giving birth, when I got to my own birth with Joshua, it pulled absolutely everything into one moment. It was life-changing. Confidence making, power integrating, and we don't really allow for the internal feminine power. We're totally fine with the external male. However, I needed to really own both parts of myself. Do you know, it's so naturally integrating. And you think you're going to die, or at least I thought I was going to die. A very common symptom for women who are in that place, to think that they're no longer going to live.
Wow.
And you need to go to that razor's edge before you, it's like the roller coaster. It's like you go to the depths, you go so deeply into everything. And it's like you've no idea that you're going to the other side.
Really?
But you have to keep letting go and keep letting go and keep shedding and keep letting go and keep breathing and keep letting go and keep letting the process happen. Keep letting the life force move through you. Let it take you. Completely take you.
Yeah.
And then boom.
You're out the other
You
side.
fly out the other side. You you go to, if you want to go high, you got to go low. You know, depth and scope. It's like you got to root, and then you will just grow into magnificence.
Wow. Amazing. That's as well as I think I've heard birth explained, and about as close as I feel I can ever come to having an insight into the I suppose that what is it? Yeah, sort of like when things kind of consume you, I suppose, but being consumed by something that's ultimately like a huge positive, to the point where you just have to trust and actually just let go of the whole lot. That's
the
amazing.
resistance is
So
a thing,
much.
though, isn't it? I mean, I feel like this is something that comes up certainly for me. I don't know about you, but for me in class and just in women's work, is like that resistance that we have to things, and the resistance adding extra burden. And in that moment when we understand that we can either have resistance and the thing, or just the thing.
Yeah.
It's much, much easier just to have the thing.
Sure.
And birth is very much, and menstruation, it's very much like the more, or, you know, menopause or any of those things, the more we push away from them and go, no, I don't really want the thing, because there might be, you know, there might be cramps, or there might be insight, or there might be low energy, or there might be sweating, or there might be any of these things that are more wild. You know, the more we try and get away from the wild, and we're like, I just want to be woman, I don't want to be wild. Then we have that resistance, and with that resistance comes that butting up against it. And in birth, it's very much like there comes this point in it where you're like, okay, there's only one way through this. Like, I can either anticipate every wave coming and be like, here comes another contraction, and you're like, everything's hard and everything's really painful, or you can go like, bring it on. That's another one down. Like, here I go. I'm on this journey, and then I'm coming out the other side of that.
And it's a wild ride, and that's hard when you have been encouraged to be demure, nice, sweet, polite, beautiful, respectful,
soft,
patient.
Yeah.
You know, all the things that women actually naturally are, and in our
Just one side. Yeah.
well, it's naturally ingrained in our hormonal cycle. You know, one teacher of mine said, a girlfriend of mine calls me ovulation girl. Right? She's like, you're so ovulation girl. And I think that's because I'm, you know, quite out there,
Quite full moonish.
you know, quite full moon, quite high energy, quite, you know, social, I'm up, I go and everything. But, you know, put a nice dollop of, you know, PETA in there and everything else, and it's just too much, right? Where I need to get far more intimate with is new moon woman, you know, the down, the restful, the yin, the in the ground. And as much as, you know, our menstrual cycle is showing us that, our life cycle is showing us that. And I really do feel now I'm like, geez, do you need to be doing yoga at all? Do you need to just stay awake in your life? Because I'm naturally moving inward.
Yeah, you can feel it.
I'm going through another big one. I've had my births, I've had my babies. My son turns a teenager, 13, in a couple of weeks. And it's not that I'm not very much in my motherhood, but I'm moving into a change. And it's like, this is really subtle, this cycle. Do you know, the birth thing is, you know, it's like physical, tangible, relatable. Everybody gets it.
Yeah.
Menopause thing is just like, oh, I don't really know what that means. So many women are kind of going, whispers. What's going on? Are you changing? Yeah.
I have women asking me all the time in the shop, and I'm like, I'm the last person who's going to have an answer for you. But yes, from what I've heard, that does sound like the start of something beginning to happen. But
something beginning to happen. So what's happening?
Yeah.
So what is happening? And it's like another big arc of shedding. This is why a lot of women get divorced in their 40s. This is why things break down. This is why it's like, I've been holding. The feminine holds, you know. We carry the water on our head. We carry the babies in the womb. We carry the emotional needs of the other. And every month you have an opportunity, or you have an invitation to lay that all down, restore, and pick it all back up again. And often I say to women, how would your life be if you spent 72 hours not carrying anyone else? Just 72 hours, just 3 days. That you just laid it down. Didn't mean you had to take to the bed.
Yeah.
Didn't mean that you had to go on a spa holiday every month. But what if you made gestures towards yourself before gestures towards the other? And that's a very necessary place to know. However, because we don't live in the tribe anymore, it's one mom, usually, one dad, two moms, you know, whatever the variations are, single parents, kids, you're just carrying all the time.
Yeah.
There's nobody to say, here is my load, here is my burden, which always would have been an integrated understanding.
And you're assuming all the social roles between two people, which is kind of unfair, isn't it?
Oh, Jesus. I mean, good luck and God bless to those couples who left here yesterday on their first 6 to 8 weeks with their newborn.
Yeah.
Because he's no instinctual imprint around it. And unless she has a really powerful, fabulous, amazing, righteous birth, it's going to be, the odds are stacked against her because she doesn't know what she's doing on a lot of levels and she's learning. And yet she's got the whole world expecting her to be some sort of, you know, delight within a couple of minutes of having her baby.
we were literally just talking about this yesterday, and we were talking about, I was saying the power of media and happenstance and conversation and all these things that we get, which seem to be kind of incidental but are actually just pushing one version of like motherhood and birth. And we get told, you know, you're just going to give birth to your baby and you're just going to be in love with them. You're just going to feel this powerful, overwhelming, like bliss love, and it's just, and you're just cozy and you're breastfeeding them and it's all just great. And God forbid you give birth to the baby, which is what I did. I had a great birth and I prepared for it like you, and I was in it and I had a really supportive partner and all the rest, all the great things. When my boy came out, I was like, you are a stranger. Like, who is, there wasn't, there was nurture. I was going to care for him. I would have laid down my life for him. But it wasn't like, oh my God, I love you so much. It was like, oh, it's you. And then over those weeks, there were times where me and his dad would turn to each other and go like, is there something wrong with us? Like, do we not love him enough? Is there, do I have postnatal depression? Is there, what is this? And people kept saying to me, are you loving it? And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not loving it. I'm really not. I'm getting zero sleep. I'm sweating so much. Like, it was the middle of the heat wave and I just couldn't even put clothes on. My midwife was like, you're naked again. I was like, I can't. What would I do? My boobs were just like double F, like these enormous things, you know, and there was just sweat under every crease of them and pouring down the whole thing. And I just had a stranger that I was getting to know. And no one wanted to hear it. I wasn't unhappy in it. I was just like, oh, okay, so now we need to learn each other and we need to get familiar with each other. And of course, as it went on and he had his little quirks and his things, and then I fell deeply in love with him. But it definitely wasn't instantaneous Hollywood movie romance love. And no one wanted to hear it. Anytime I tried to say it, people were like, oh my God, that's too freaky, like you're freaking me out. You can't tell me that you're not in love with your baby or you're not in love with the experience, because I can't hear that.
Yeah.
But I think, sorry. The thing you're talking about is also something that people maybe deny within a lot of their relationships as well. Like, and we talked about this a little bit before, that duality of emotion. You're not allowed to kind of know that you love someone, but also kind of hate them at the same time.
Yeah.
For specific things. You're not allowed to kind of like say, I'm willing to accept that I may love you tomorrow or like in 20 minutes. But right now I'm really angry at this thing.
Yeah.
Because people are like, oh, it's gonna break then. It's like, that's the end of it. It's like, no, it's not gonna break. But let's talk about that bad crap. Because otherwise we just go, okay, push it right down into that box, and then just keep going and just be really polite and smile.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean.
Well, polite and smile is really promoted, right?
Isn't it?
I mean, it's nuts. It's nuts. And there is an inbuilt, there's such a process becoming, it's such a rite of passage, it's such a process becoming a mother. And to think that it happens like second one, that you understand it, that you get it, that it all happens, that it all unfolds in that moment is naive. Yeah. There's such a process that happens, you know. And I still see my mother processing motherhood. And I'm her youngest, and I'm 46. So, you know, it's like, God, it never really ends.
Yeah.
I only really copped it yesterday when I was at, Lily did a Mother's Day workshop.
Right, yeah.
And I sat with my mum. So we went away at the start of this year for 3 weeks, and it was kind of like the first time that we'd spent.
So your mum went to India?
Yeah, with me, which was deadly. I mean, that was kind of the thing. It was I got a little windfall, weirdly, because my dad is dead. It kind of bypassed my mum and came to me, and I was like, okay, well, I'd like to do something decent with that. So we went to India. And when we were there, I was kind of like, it sort of struck me. I knew I was doing it because I wanted to go with her, and I knew we'd had this thing since I was tiny, that we kind of wanted to safari together, wanted to do something like that. So we sort of the same adventurous spirit thing, just a little bit. And so we spent 3 weeks, and it was amazing. And I think we both came back better friends than when we went away. And I was like, geez, I really want to kind of continue this. I think we could actually be maybe buddies. I know that's not really accepted as a thing, but I really genuinely think so. And so I wanted to take her to this Mother's Day workshop. And I was sitting in front of her, and Lydia made us sit in front of each other and really stare into each other's eyes. And we were doing kind of like shared Kriya stuff, which you'll put the proper name on, sorry. And I was like looking into Mum's eyes, and I was thinking like, God, you're just a vulnerable human being. Yeah. You're just a human being trying to do some stuff. And you've been like sort of, I'm not going to say pretending, because pretending is not fair, because she's like absolutely doing it and done it, but still kind of like making it up as she went along. And in a culture where it's not in any ways given credence to that you're allowed to make it up as you go along, that it's like you have to know before they're born, or exactly when they're born, that it's going to be your favorite thing in the world to be a mum, and that it's going to be your favorite person in the world. It's a doozy.
It's listen, it's life, you know, it's just life. I think, you know, it is there to show us all, whatever it is, to bring us to a place of connection with truth. I mean, it's so difficult to language, really, the whole process of what's unfolding for us. But I do believe in I do have a strong sense of devotion. I really do feel in my heart the power behind it all is a benevolent, loving mother force to a degree, you know. And that I do agree massively with the tantric lineage. It goes back to the Shi Yantra, which is, you know, the divine feminine force. That's what's unfolding. And then we have the masculine, which is the awareness or the consciousness of what's unfolding. And it's the marriage of those two in us. And the mother is undervalued and underappreciated because her work is so unseen. Whereas the male, classically, you know, is external and seen. And it's a tough gig being a mom. I was saying to the couples yesterday, you know, I found myself with a newborn and I didn't know who I was. And I kept going into shops, buying what I call mom clothes, right? I was buying black slacks, right? Now, I don't even wear black, but somewhere I was like, oh, they're I mean, I was just like in this kind of haze of, you know, exhaustion and feeding and what's going on, and the flowers are all gone, and the fanfare is over, and here I am trying to occupy myself. And then next thing I'd be returning stuff going, no, I don't think so. And I just didn't know where to be. So I was trying to find fulfillment through kind of shopping, not to any degree, but it was just weird what I'd kind of come home with, and I'd go, oh my God, that's insane. So I'd bring it back. And
Another 52-inch plasma TV.
But it was never anything too extreme. It was just really interesting. I think of the thing where I was, and I was like, maybe I should be fleeces. Fleece is sensible. I'd be in Patagonia kind of going, I think I need to buy a fleece. You know, it was all just really sensible or
to
something.
kind of coach yourself in an external
I'm
thing.
no
Like
longer
Mother
a
Base.
dynamic woman, you know. I was trying to transition without any guidance, you know. There was no map. There was no map again, you know. And invisible.
Yeah.
Deeply unseen.
Yeah.
And as our mutual friend Katie said to me after her first year, she's like, where's my award? Where's my fucking award? I want my award. I was like, I know, right? You're invisible. Those hours, those nights at work is not appreciated. It's undervalued and unseen. To the level that we could project that very much onto our environment, you know, the processes of nature, the nurture of nature, the abundance of the giving power of nature is just nature.
Totally
Taken for granted.
Fucking trees, man.
Yeah.
That's no
They can
use.
keep doing it.
They don't just keep doing it.
Yeah.
They've always been doing it.
Yeah.
And I was walking down Grafton Street, so when I'm having this moment, and I'm just kind of like, who am I? And I'm completely invisible. And I was like, and I never fucking get eyed up anymore, right? Like zero attention. Because you used to like have a bit of a strut back. I used to like, I used to enjoy a bit of a, you know, a bit of a strut, bit of a look, bit of a, oh yeah, you're nice. Oh yeah, you're nice too, you know. And at that moment, and you know, it's a deeply misogynistic culture, and there's lots of badness to be said about it. But two Italian blokes walked up Grafton Street in the other direction, and one of them just looked at me and went, "Ciao, mamma."
No way, really?
Thank you.
That's what you wanted. That's amazing.
So
That's
it's,
amazing.
you know,
That's
so it's like, oh my God, you see me? I am actually beyond a pram pushing appendage, you know, and it's not, you know, you don't want to let go of your sexuality. You don't want to let go of, but it's a weird time. It's a weird time. And, you know, they've done the studies about the person cleaning the toilets with the toothbrush for 9 hours straight. And if somebody comes in and says, well done, you're doing a great job, we really, really respect what you're doing and it's fantastic, that person will continue to do it and feel joy and pride in their work. Mm-hmm. But the work of the mother is completely undervalued, underappreciated, undervalued and underappreciated and overworked. Yeah. And that's kind of what I meet in yoga practices. I meet a lot of women who are overworked and underappreciated, and they're deeply broken. And am I right in saying that the number one killer of women is heart disease? I think that was something I heard back in the day.
Probably to a certain age, anyway.
I think heart disease. I think it's a Christiane Northrup statistic. It kills more women, and I think it's just like broken-heartedness. It's just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's funny.
I've given life, and I am tossed aside.
But it's also like the value of woman. It's we'll go back to this in a second, but the value of woman is in the visible bit, right? In the fertile period. Sure. So when you're pregnant,
listen, the fertile woman is just like
everyone's like, oh, you're pregnant. Oh my God, you're amazing, and you're so beautiful, and you're glowing, and your hair, and let's massage your feet, and you should take yourself to a spa, and you know, let's give you all this, and we'll bring you presents, we'll do your baby shower, la la la. And then the moment the baby comes out of your vagina, it's all like, your baby's amazing, and you're just this dead thing that just birthed the child and that was left as like the wrapper.
Yeah.
Like the edge bit of the fruit that you throw in.
You're the
bin.
skin that was shed.
That way. But can we actually come back and talk to how the training that we did together with Uma Dinsmore? Yeah. And just for people who are listening who haven't done the training that we've done in menstrual cycle awareness and that the idea of the cycle and the seasons and that whole thing, will you talk into that a little bit?
Yeah. So we did a womb yoga training together, like 8 years ago, 7 years ago.
7, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Prior to that, I had been working with Alexandra Pope. And I think that inspired an awful lot of what Uma was doing. And I went before the womb training, I think, and I did a weekend with the two of them. And Alexandra basically has devoted her whole life to the, I suppose, the psycho-spiritual processes of menstrual cycle. And then Uma obviously was the yogi. And Alexandra was very suspicious of yoga. She saw it as just this kind of, you know, aerobic, male lineagey thing. But then obviously, you know, she came into Uma's work, and Uma is, you know, it's kind of the mother of all of the practices. And she really came from postnatal recovery. That was her area of expertise, really. So then you'd kind of menstruation and you'd postnatal recovery meeting through yoga. And that basically, I think, inspired Uma to bring it into more of what she called womb yoga practices. And she was talking about more about the seasons within the body and the cycle. And I suppose my area of expertise has always been pregnancy and birth, you know. So it was as relevant to me as it was, because it's all the one thing. And I suppose when we trained together, it was a very nurturing, restful, and I think this is really true of any kind of work that I've certainly done with women, and I think I felt the same from Uma when she was working with us. It's just a remembering.
Okay.
It's just remembering. It's just this is innate to you. The essence of creation is encoded in your cells.
It's nice to know the wisdom isn't lost, is it? Because that's always the scary thing.
It's not lost, but I know it is. It's not valued. It's not. It doesn't have a huge amount of value. Other than now, we're noticing, as you said when we were chatting earlier on, what's this with all these moons and all these women's onlys and all these circles? Because it's really kind of, there's traction now. We've hit this kind of tipping point, and it's all kind of collided with the Me Too movements and environmental crisis and a recalibration or balancing of power structures. So the big external power is crumbling, and then what, you know? And it's a deeper call for all of us to connect with what's internally always been there. But you got to get really quiet to
We would do like...
And we were doing like 4 or 5 yoga nidras a day at one
like
stage.
these
I mean, I
hour-long-
was coming out. I used to come out of that place every night, and I was touching places that I hadn't touched since before I was a mother.
Right, okay.
So
Everyone
it's just
cried.
deep, 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 deep rest. Nervous system recalibrating, you know, and the nervous system of certainly most of us, but new moms or people who've been parenting for a long time, your nervous system is just so fried because it's hooked into your child's nervous system. So their cry is a little electrical volt through you.
Yeah.
So you're just like, you know, you're constantly, what were those things back in the 70s?
Like marionette things.
Do you remember those things that women used to strap onto themselves? My mother
To
had
make
one.
them get fit, that
Yeah,
crap.
yeah.
Electrode things.
Yeah.
This is
Slender tone.
Slender tone. That's the gym body aid. There you go.
It's like you've got one of those strapped to you the whole time, and you're just fried. You know, you're really fried. And that brought me to a certain place as well. But then I don't know what's really happened in recent years, but it's like a excavation into even further depth that you have to do on your own. You just have to do it on your own. But then, you know, I've been, as much as lots of women in the yoga world have been doing, by virtue of sitting in a circle a couple of times a week, creating that space, that women have been gathering in since time began. It just happens to be a yoga class. But women will find that circle. They'll go to the book club, and they'll go to the knitting circle, and they'll find that circle. But now it's like, it's more and more, particularly I've you know, with the pregnancy work, you know, a lot of women come to yoga when they're pregnant for the first time. And they're like, oh, this place. Gives them a couple of weeks and they're like, oh, the importance and value of this place. But it's all in service of another. What happens when we come to our menopausal time, which is obviously I'm heading into, is that this practice, these practices are in service of yourself. It's to truly give birth to yourself, to really own who you are as you move into your real adulthood. You know, a lot of the indigenous cultures say that we don't become adults until we're 53.
Yeah, until our parents die or different things.
Yeah, I really do get that. It's like, can you care for yourself? Can you eat like you ate in pregnancy? Can you turn up to the yoga practices? Can you limit your the ability you're carrying other people? And you'll do it in pregnancy. Do you know what I mean? You'll be like, no, I can't come in such a night. I'm just wrecked, you know. You know, and maybe I won't do that. Maybe I will do the yoga nidra class as opposed to the, you know, dynamic level 3 class. Maybe I will say yes to that and yes to that. And we don't question those choices when we're pregnant as women because it's in service of this other person. So then I suppose the more challenging practices are, can you do it for yourself? Can you do all of those things for yourself as you transition through the next big cycle? Because ultimately you are preparing for the big letting go, which is your identification with fertility. You know, the part of me that wanted the 2 Italians to give him a nod and a wink walking up the street. You're letting go of your that aspect of you that perhaps you're so identified with and the world really enjoys of you. But that again is not who you truly are. That again is not what it is all about. It's letting go of the external even more, to come into greater alignment with the natural power of life within you that you are going to express to an even greater degree in your wisdom years, which is really, really, really exciting. However, it's seen as, oh Jesus, bat wings and saggy boobs and hot flashes and not sleeping and infertility and dryness. If I hear dryness one more time, I'm going to fucking punch somebody. The estrogen that's holding it all up, that's holding us all up, the mother energy is dissipating. But you don't go into some other hormonal place that you don't understand. You go back to your pre-hormonal patterning before you became a menstrual cycling girl. So there's a real abundance and beauty in that place as well, because I have a 9-year-old girl. I know what that looks like. Like, oh my God, I'm going to go to where she is now, hormonally. Ooh, that's attractive. Yeah. It's just like insightful and energetic and intuitive and alive and budding. There's this real budding energy at that age in girls. But with all the bloody life experience and wisdom and all the rest, as this great big, you know, holding. And at least that's my wish. That's my intention. Just as my wish and my intention for all of the other rites of passage were equally positive. I'm, you know, delusionally positive. A psychotherapist once said that to me. It was like, you've managed with such dysfunction in your life through overt positivity. But the upshot of that is that it's a very positive message to the universe. So I am actually met with an awful lot of positive...
So you can harvest that.
Yeah.
And you reap it a bit.
So it is delusional to a degree. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it was actually not that brilliant. That wasn't that brilliant. my God, oh, it's great, it's fine. I'm an eternal optimist.
Yeah.
Maybe not delusionally positive, but an eternal optimist. And I'm also fiercely rebellious. You know, I rebelled against all of the power structures that were put in front of me. I didn't trust them. I rebelled against everything. Not like anarchically, but I did rebel. I'm distrustful of medical power structures. I'm distrustful of political structures. I'm distrustful of educational structures that I'm putting my kids through. Do you know what? I just am. It's just my nature. And therefore, if somebody says to me, well, it's all dry and old and saggy and useless, I'm just going, no, it's not.
Yeah,
No,
instinctively no.
And I'm just going to disprove you. I'm going to put everything I can into that not being my experience. And I'm going to take as many people with me as I can. You know,
Right.
the first time I felt the pelvic outlet, you know, the first time I felt the pelvic bones, the pubic bone and the tailbone, and the relationship between the two of them and the way they open. And I was like, so why do women give birth on their back then? And it was like, well, no, actually, women give birth on their back for loads of other reasons, which are very dysfunctional for her and her baby and the whole process. This is how women should give birth, in a position where that can move and open. I was like, oh my God, I have to tell as many women as I can about that.
Yeah.
And I've told at least 5,000 women in person, and I'm planning on telling 50 billion women or million women online as soon as I can.
Yeah.
Because that's important. If you just take that one thing away, you get off your back, that's a good thing.
It's a good start.
It's a good start.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're taking your course online.
I mean, that's the plan. And if like nobody watches it, it's not that big an investment, but I know people will. I know women do need to know. And I feel I'm in a place where I can impart. I've kind of moved. I haven't given birth in like 9 years. Do you know what I mean? But I'm still teaching this stuff. I'm still passionate about it. It's still there. So as a student of mine who is a teacher herself, who's also, she's not even a student of mine, she teaches me so much. She said it comes to the inevitable trajectory is to pass it, is to hand it over, is to teach it to the next. So I'm doing teacher trainings now where I'm teaching women who are already yoga teachers to be women's teachers. This is the bit that you didn't get in your teacher training. This is really where you need to discern a woman from in a general room where we're all pretending that we have the same body, and to impart as much as I can around this whole pregnancy body of work that has really kind of, obviously from my own development and training and experience, but from the stories that the women who I've taught have told me.
Yeah.
So I have this archive of birth stories. And I'll meet a woman on the street and it's like 5, 6, 7 years later and they're like, oh, Lou, oh my God, I so meant to send you an email. Here's my birth story. And it may as well have happened yesterday, because how they gave birth matters to them. And they see me and they go, oh my God, you'll get this. You'll hear me in this moment. And I have a fantastic recall of faces. I'm not good with names.
Okay.
So I'll always be like, oh yeah, no, I totally remember you. Don't know what your name is. And I don't know where I taught you. Could have been last week, could have been 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Like women
just check
come
you as
back
a
into the
child.
class and they're like, I'm back. And you're like, oh yay, you're back. Remember you here again? And she's like, oh, I had my first 2 7 years ago. And I'm like, oh wow. You know, if she had said, I missed a week,
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, I didn't see you last week.
I did exactly the same thing in the shop. Recently, actually, I had a woman come in. This is the worst one was a couple of years ago. There was one really recently, and he came in. I was kind of just like, how's it going? He's like, good. And he kind of looked at me kind of quizzically, and I was like, you know, not like, can I help? Because we're way beyond that. I know well enough. I was like, what's up? He's like, I haven't been in here in 2 years. You expanded the shop. I was like,
I know, right?
what? I mean,
I know.
I see you every week. He's like, I live in Blanchardstown now. I was like,
Yeah, right.
But it's nice because it means that you've never lost that connection. Like, and it's cool because it shows you time is totally immaterial in these things.
Totally immaterial.
Yeah.
Totally immaterial. I've been a vegetarian for a very long time, and I've just started introducing meat again. So I'm rebelling against the whole vegan thing. It's so mad, and it's not intentional. But I feel like I do need some meat very irregularly, but when I need it, I take it. So I had turkey for Christmas, and somebody said, "What does turkey taste like?" And I said, "Turkey," because like there's no timeline in my taste buds. They're just my taste buds. It's like that sense of smell thing. Time is really just such an illusion, and people's faces and your connection with them just totally shows you that again, you know.
There's this really curious thing, sorry to be annoying imparting things, but we have two olfactory senses, right? There's the external one, and then there's this what's called the reverse olfactory sense, which is up the back of the palate, and it's directly connected to where our memory centers are. Our memories are created, and it's like apparently this one externally goes to a different part where it looks at danger. So the external one's like, okay, is this okay? Is this safe? And this other guy, which is one you discovered quite recently, is actually like our main memory center direct connection. It's the only place that we have this whole directly from our brain. It's fully exposed to this. I can't remember the name of the olfactory sense.
Yeah.
And it's madly powerful, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is madly powerful.
And it makes a folly of time,
and
that's for sure.
It really does. Total folly. Sinead, Uganda.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she talks about that. She calls it the backstage pass.
Okay,
She's subconscious.
That's,
yeah, no, totally. And then, you know, that whole part of you awakens so massively in pregnancy, right? You get this bionic sense of smell, and then you get this really bionic sense of smell when you're in labour. And I think that's all about, is it safe? Am I safe? My little bunny here, do you know what I mean? He spends the whole time, his little nose going up and down, up and down, up and down, and up and down. Is it safe? Is it safe? Is it safe? Is it safe? And then I'll stroke him and I'll rub him and he'll be grand and the ears will drop and the nose will go quiet. And then, you know...
2 seconds later.
Lawnmower outside. Is it safe? And I think that is a natural kind of mammalian protection, but also compounded on top of that is all the stuff that we've been talked out of, you know, because, you know, I think most of us are just like, is it safe? Am I okay?
So if
no matter what we're going through.
Yeah, exactly. So if women can't find, like, let's say you specifically until that course goes online, what's the best thing they can do to try to reconnect with that sense? Like maybe they're pregnant, maybe they're not pregnant, whatever. But I feel like this is relevant for kind of across the spectrum,
but this is relevant for everybody, right? Get in your body, get out of your head. Do you know? And you know, you and I have been teaching through the arc of smartphones, right?
Yeah.
So there was no iPads and Apple phones and smartphones when I had Joshua. Obviously, I think there's obviously Nokias and dumb phones.
They were on the edge of. I think we were just coming.
I know. I mean, I had my first mobile brick phone when I was 24. So that's 22 years ago, right? So that kind of like, you know.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm on the bus. That one.
I forgot my suitcase. That means I won't have my phone.
But so. The one thing that I've noticed in everybody, but particularly in women, is we're carrying even more. Because there's just more now. And we're playing such a experimental game with ourselves as to what can we take with the bings and the dings and the mails and the social medias and the profiles and the personas and that whole external association becoming even more heavy, you know, more loaded. So the first thing I'd say is get in your body. And what does that mean? It would be just simply to connect your breathing with your moving and to do something that's sensory. So you stop thinking and you start feeling. Click into a more feeling modality as often as you can. If that's even squeezing your toes in your shoes, if that even means just giving yourself a great big opening and a stretch, but connect to sensation and the more immaterial, the breath. So feeling and moving. That's why women love yoga, right? That's why there's 98% females in the class, because we're so able to feel and we're so able to move. And it's not about being flexible. It's about kind of coming into that place where it's a creative flow. It's a conscious flow. Pregnant women are already more embodied often women find themselves in a place of, I've never been more aware of my body. So it's pulling you in irrespective. Your menstrual cycle is pulling you in. Your pregnancies are pulling you in. Your rites of passage are pulling you in. It's like, pay attention to this. There's gold in them there hills. Just pay attention more, pay attention more. So to go with that is not only kind of more natural and obvious. It becomes very obvious. And everybody comes out of the yoga class and they're going, oh my God, I feel so much better. And it's like, well, what is that? You know, what is that? And for lots of people, it's just a disassociation with a over-association with their thoughts. And the thinking, criticizing, commenting, judging mind. And to connect to something that has more depth and more truth and more ground. So just come in, come down. And it's not the most comfortable place for everybody because it can feel a little unknown. But I do feel that women particularly, it's so necessary. It's just so necessary. It's necessary for everybody. But I suppose, I mean, I have a woman's body, so I can't,
So
you know, I was saying to the dads yesterday in the shed, I was like, I hope there's a guy in a shed somewhere telling you these things, but I am not that person because I don't know those things. I don't know what it is that is the practice of the man, the masculine, to connect to. Is it only to connect to your feminine more? Is the masculine sorted? I don't know. Is it more for women to connect to their feminine? And, you know, I know certainly to survive in this world, I upped my masculine.
Yeah.
You know, I upped my...
Yeah.
I can drink more.
Going.
Yeah, I can do anything, you know, and it's like, that was just survival. I just looked around and kind of went, okay, well, I'm not crying and looking vulnerable in this situation, and I'm not really going to express what I'm feeling in this moment, even though I can feel what's happening in this moment. I'm just going to stay somewhere else. And ultimately, we're just trying to find balance. You know, that old elusive middle path.
Yeah, and so
it's like the old middle path.
Yeah, I know, and it's a boring thing as well, because it's the thing when in like the Tao Te Ching, it's like, you know, the Tao is nothing. Like you don't speak because it's like you're done. Like that's it's not like trying for this or trying for that. It's just the not trying.
Yeah.
It's kind of mad. So many people who come to yoga, and well, me personally as well, who come to like doing something physical in order to get out of their heads, tend to like just wear themselves out doing the very pitta versions, because I'm speaking from a very pitta perspective as well. Of those types of practices, be it like HIIT training or be it like very strongly asana driven yoga. Like for you, do you have to pull yourself away from that? Because you must be drawn to that as well a lot, no? Or
I again, on the natural arc of maturing.
Okay.
That's falling away.
Okay, yeah.
And it's just happening.
Okay.
And I suppose I have a very loyal following of women who kind of are following the arc I'm on.
Okay, amazing.
Do you know, we're all kind of on the same journey. And I used to feel uncomfortable going into a class and saying, okay, so today we're all going to just lie down. We're going to stay really close to the floor, because I think I would be letting them down, because they all wanted to feel something more. And then I suppose the realization that I'll just offer what I'm offering. Let's not turn it back on them and think, oh, well, what does that person want? What's that person want? You know, because I used to find back in the day, if a really kind of dynamic, experienced yogi or yogini came into the class, there's a part of me that wanted to direct the class at them, so they'd be satisfied. Do you know what I mean? You'd be like, oh, I better make it really hard because a couple of yoga teachers here, and I better like get them to really kind of, you know, as opposed to just going from here out. And the more I can take it, because truly when I am in my flow, I am completely out of the way, and we're all connecting into a shared place. And I might bang on for a good hour 40, and maybe 10 minutes of that is magic. But I'm going to keep on going until we get to that place, and then you can feel it. We're all sharing something, and it's all there, and it's so not a persona. There's like something else that comes. And that's why, you know, I think that's where that's when you know you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're kind of like, oh wow, I just wasn't there for that bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I wasn't
yeah.
trying, I wasn't pushing, I wasn't
Striving.
thinking, I wasn't projecting, I wasn't remembering, I wasn't, you know, class planning or thinking of something wise somebody else said to throw that in there. Because, you know, and you spend a lot of time throwing in other people's stuff. But then you just kind of find that there's a shared place. And that place, I think, is where we're blessed to know. We're really blessed to know that place.
That's it, really.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we are, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yay.
I feel like we could actually probably talk for hours. Our timer has, well, I don't know what our timer's on.
Timer's just
Hopefully
kind
you're
of
all
gone,
still listening.
hello.
Yeah. But that's amazing. That's really that's some great insight. And I really hope that your transition takes you to places where you want to go. And I feel like it has to, and you're obviously trusting it, which is great.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm so blessed. I really am so blessed. And we all are to live in the world where we don't have to stay in a survival mode. You know, we're safe. You know,
It's so many needs are looked after.
We're so met. So it's kind of, there's a responsibility in that, and the responsibility is to really get back to, so all of that's okay. So let's get back to what we would have naturally done, which was
surviving.
Exactly, which was support. Support the well-being of the whole that we're all a part of.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
when you're doing that, you're coalescing with creation. It's like, I don't know who said it, but somebody said it. I didn't come up with it, but anytime I say it in the moment, I'm kind of like, oh, it's so true. Remembering that you are part of a matrix of life not only feeds yourself, but it feeds the matrix of life.
Yeah.
You know, it's like helping somebody feels good.
Yeah.
And it's helping somebody.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's
magic.
win-win.
It's perpetual.
It's so
motion,
well
whatever.
designed.
Yeah,
It's just like, oh, that's brilliant. I
Yeah.
just helped somebody on the street. I go away feeling fantastic about myself. Look what I did. Oh, I felt really good. And the person leaves going, that person helped me. Oh, that was so nice. Great.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. Accepting generosity is a really good thing as well, isn't it? I constantly have people who come up who have this like thing where they fight over the bill.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, just let her be generous. You can get the next one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You know, and there's something really nice in that one, because allowing to be given to is something people are really not cozy with, and maybe it's just
I
Irish kind of
know.
old Catholic crap. I'm
all
not sure.
sorts of stuff, isn't
All
it?
sorts of stuff.
It's all sorts of stuff. Yeah. You have such a legendary reputation for being so generous.
The little shop, like little charity, but it is a shop, unfortunately. But yeah,
It's a shop, but it's like, oh, well, listen, I went in and then this Finn guy, oh my God, and he just spent like 10 minutes. And I'm like, I know, how does he do that? The generosity,
Really?
the
That's
energy that you give, it's like, yay, that's gold.
that's nice. Well, I
Yeah.
certainly enjoy the giving. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing. I mean, it's
Well, clearly we enjoy it because that's what we
Yeah.
do.
Big time. That is all you do. Yeah, true that.
Yeah, but it comes back. It
Oh,
comes back,
hugely.
and that's the stuff that, again, is the unseen, but it is actually the stuff that's underpinning everything. Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Lou,
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Really, really
So
special.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Namaste. And as I'm saying more and more lately, may the force be with you.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Just to take the charge out of Sanskrit for some people.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, for
Particularly
sure.
the dads in the workshops are like,
Yeah.
may the force be with you. And you're like, oh yeah.
I get it.
Force.
That's gas. Cool.
Okay.
Deadly. So if people want to find out more about Lou Horgan,
LouYoga.com.
sweet, and very
Social
soon.
media, not so. I'm there, but you won't get a lot out of me. So you're better off just going to my website and go to my events page, and everything's there.
But very soon, the women of Oman and other parts
The
of the
women
world.
of the world will have access to it's a 6-week prenatal yoga course that I
Amazing.
teach, that I've been teaching forever. I could do it probably backwards and upside down and in my sleep at this
So
stage.
maybe you will.
Someday I'll give that a lash just to keep it fresh. So that will be a 6-hour program
Great.
going online.
Great.
And we'll see how that goes. And if that goes well, you know, I do 6-week courses in women's work. I do 6, you know what I mean? I have these kind of models that I follow to kind of like, okay, well, let's travel down into the chakra system of women. So we're not dealing with babies anymore, we're dealing with the subtle body. And then I do 6-week programs where I'm just trying to connect women to what sits on top of the life force, the resistance and the fear. And then I do, you know, that's all going to grow into, you know, the 6-week perimenopausal thing as well, which I'm working on, which I haven't really laid down to a point that I'm ready to put it out into the world, because I have to go through to the other side.
You got to live it first. Yeah.
I got to live it first. I got to embody it first. Yeah. So I'm just in. I'm in the lab.
Okay.
I'm in the
Good
lab.
stuff.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Really exciting.
Cool. Well, thank you guys all for watching or listening, and you can obviously find out more about Lou and those bits and bobs, and sounds like your course is going to be amazing. Also, don't forget to check out our wee sponsors, newsest.co.uk and use Wellness15 for your discount online, and Clearlight Saunas. Look at them online and come and find out our discount code as well, because we haven't really got the discount. Oh, have we got the discount code for that? Anyway, we'll post it into the notes.
I want the discount code.
Yeah, we'll give you the discount code.
I got going into the saunas in Austria, so I'm myself, the sauna. Yeah.
Pretty special.
Okay, we will tell you about it.
Yeah,
Okay,
indeed,
great.
absolutely. Okay,
And
cool. What next?
Swivel, if you enjoy
Oh, yeah.
watching on our little device, that is called a Swivel, and we also have a discount code for that.
Yeah, let's change a little bit. So go to techinvasion.co.uk and ask Satnam, and he will give you that code.
So anyway, thank you so much for listening, Lou. Thank you for
Yeah,
coming.
it was a treat. Thanks for your lovely home.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Okay, see you next time.
Bye, July.
Bye.